Program studi Magister Linguistik merupakan salah satu program pasca sarjana di Fakultas Ilmu Budaya Universitas Diponegoro yang lokasinya ada di Jalan Prof. Sudarto SH, Tembalang, Semarang, Jawa Tengah, Indonesia. Program studi Magister Linguistik memiliki visi program studi berbasis riset yang unggul dalam bidang linguistik umum dan juga terapan di Asia Tenggara pada tahun 2025. Memiliki misi menghasilkan lulusan yang unggul dan kompetitif di bidang linguistik umum dan terapan, menyelenggarakan pendidikan berbasis penelitian atau research-based teaching yang berkualitas secara nasional dan internasional dalam bidang linguistik umum dan terapan, serta mengembangkan penelitian dan publikasi ilmiah yang profesional sebagai sumbangan terhadap perkembangan ilmu pengetahuan, bahasa, dan budaya. Menyelenggarakan pengabdian kepada masyarakat berdasarkan hasil penelitian yang dilakukan oleh dosen dan mahasiswa dalam bidang ilmu linguistik umum dan terapan, meningkatkan profesionalitas, kapabilitas, akuntabilitas dalam tata kelola atau governance, serta kemandirian penyelenggaraan program studi. Serta tujuan yang dijabarkan dalam kurikulumnya dengan menawarkan bidang linguistik umum dan linguistik terapan pada pengajaran bahasa Inggris. Dari sejak berdiri, pada tanggal 6 Mei 2005 hingga sekarang, program studi Magister Linguistik telah melakukan perubahan-perubahan dalam peningkatan mutu dengan berpaku pada standar mutu dan melakukan evaluasi secara periodik. Capaian program studi Magister Linguistik telah diakui dengan diperolehnya status akreditasi A oleh Bank PT Republik Indonesia. Untuk mengembangkan program studi Magister Linguistik, kerjasama dilakukan dengan berbagai pihak, baik pihak universitas di dalam maupun di luar negeri, serta lembaga-lembaga lain baik pemerintah maupun swasta. Para lulusan program studi Magister Linguistik antara lain sebagai peneliti, dosen atau pendidik, penyuluh bahasa, teknokrat maupun politisi yang tersebar tidak hanya di Nusantara, baik di Jawa, Sumatera, Kalimantan, Sulawesi, Nusa Tenggara Timur, tetapi juga di luar negeri.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Program studi Magister Linguistik di Fakultas Ilmu Budaya Universitas Diponegoro merupakan salah satu program unggulan di fakultas kami karena program ini mampu menghasilkan lulusan yang ahli di bidang linguistik terapan dan juga linguistik murni. Di bidang linguistik terapan khususnya mereka ahli di bidang pengajaran bahasa asing dan juga di bidang penerjemahan. Di bidang linguistik murni, para lulusan kami pada umumnya ahli di bidang pemertahanan bahasa lokal dan juga penanganan bagaimana hubungan antara bahasa dan masyarakat. Di samping juga ahli di bidang linguistik murni dengan menggunakan ancangan-ancangan terbaru. Keunggulan yang lain adalah para SDM yang ada di program studi Magister Linguistik, yakni para dosen yang semuanya bergelar doktor. Mereka terdiri atas guru besar dan lektor kepala dari dalam dan luar negeri yang memiliki kompetensi di bidang masing-masing, sehingga kolaborasi dari para dosen ini menghasilkan kurikulum yang mampu menjawab tantangan di masyarakat. Kurikulum kami mengedepankan kurikulum yang berbasis kompetensi, sehingga para lulusan kami harapkan memiliki kompetensi yang unik, memiliki kompetensi yang bisa dan mampu bersaing dengan para lulusan yang lain. Ini terbukti dari para alumni kami yang tersebar di berbagai pekerjaan di Nusantara ini. Para alumni dari program studi Magister Linguistik yang meneruskan studi lanjut di tingkat doktoral juga banyak diterima di universitas-universitas besar di Indonesia dan juga universitas-universitas di luar negeri. Ini membuktikan bahwa lulusan program studi Magister Ilmu Linguistik dan juga program studi itu sendiri diakui keberadaannya oleh dunia, sehingga lulusan kami mampu membawa nama baik di perguruan tinggi tujuan tersebut. Oleh karena itu, mari saudara-saudara jangan ragu untuk bergabung dengan kami di program studi Magister Ilmu Linguistik yang akan menciptakan para lulusan-lulusan yang handal di bidang linguistik. Kami akan mengajak Anda untuk bersama-sama memajukan dunia linguistik di Indonesia. Terima kasih.
Saya Dion Mitria Fidiasi, saya dosen sekaligus Wakil Direktur Bidang Kemahasiswaan Akademi Maritim Nusantara Cilacap. Magister Linguistik Undip mengajarkan saya melihat dunia melalui perspektif yang lebih luas. Sayalah MLI Undip.
Magister Linguistik Universitas Diponegoro. Program studi ini saya pandang berhasil dalam memaksimalkan potensi dari setiap mahasiswanya, kesigapan segenap staf, dan utamanya perhatian dari para dosen dalam mengajar, membimbing, dan membuka cakrawala pengetahuan adalah modal utama dari prodi ini.
Jurusan Linguistik Universitas Diponegoro, saya merasa banyak sekali manfaat yang saya dapatkan dari lembaga pendidikan tersebut untuk menunjang kinerja saya saat ini. Dari lembaga tersebut saya mendapatkan berbagai ilmu pengetahuan tentang kebahasaan yang sangat bermanfaat untuk saya penunjang ke kinerja saya dalam melaksanakan tugas saya sebagai peneliti, juga sebagai tenaga penyuluh di Balai Bahasa Provinsi Kalimantan Barat.
Bagi saya, mata kuliah yang saya peroleh, saya pelajari selama di kampus sangat relevan dengan bidang kerja saya saat ini. Saya dapat mengaplikasikan teori ilmu serta pengetahuan ke dalam pekerjaan sehari-hari, terutama ketika saya melakukan penelitian kebahasaan. Saya berterima kasih kepada para dosen pendidik yang telah membimbing saya selama ini.
And now, I am teaching at Sekolah Vokasi Universitas Gadjah Mada. I am a proud alumnus for having my master degree from Magister Linguistik Universitas Diponegoro. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, saya Didit. Saya bekerja di Universitas AGI, Prodi Sastra Inggris sebagai dosen. Kuliah di Magister Linguistik Undip itu menyenangkan, profesional, dan bermutu. Terima kasih.
Program Magister adalah tempat menempa diri sebagai bentuk pendalaman ilmu yang telah kita tekuni saat sarjana. Di program studi Magister Linguistik Undip, bersama para dosen dan kompeten, saya dididik melalui proses pengajaran dan penelitian untuk menemukan passion saya di bidang sosiolinguistik. Terima kasih Magister Linguistik Undip. Jayalah selalu alma materku.
I graduated from Master Programs in Linguistic Diponegoro University in 2016. It's been more than a decade. The study programs creating excellent human resources. Of course, especially me. The study program makes me like who I am now, and I'm really grateful that I'm part of it. I hope the study program will get better and stronger than before.
Saya bangga menjadi alumni Magister Linguistik di Undip karena itu membuat saya menjadi lebih baik. Alumni Undip, jaya. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Linguistik Undip, khususnya para dosen yang selalu sepenuh hati dalam membimbing dan mengajar, sehingga menjadi motivasi dan inspirasi untuk saya memberikan pula yang terbaik untuk mahasiswa. Jaya selalu.
Halo, saya Saidatu Nafisa, saat ini berprofesi sebagai dosen tetap di Unindra PGRI Jakarta dan juga sebagai tutor di Universitas Terbuka. Saya merasa bersyukur dan bangga menjadi alumni dari Magister Linguistik Undip. Semoga MLI ke depan selalu bertambah jaya.
Kota Semarang menjadi salah satu kota paling berkembang di Pulau Jawa, sekaligus sebagai wilayah metropolitan terpadat kelima di Indonesia. Menjadi kota yang heterogen, toleran, dan damai, Kota Semarang juga terkenal dengan perguruan tingginya. Salah satunya adalah Universitas Diponegoro yang terletak di Jalan Profesor Sudarto SH Tembalang, Semarang, Jawa Tengah. Sebagai universitas terkemuka di Jawa Tengah, Universitas Diponegoro memiliki 13 fakultas. Salah satunya Fakultas Ilmu Budaya. Universitas Diponegoro secara berkesinambungan berkembang menjadi universitas terkemuka dan menghasilkan lulusan yang memiliki profil komplit, communicator, profesional, leader, entrepreneur, thinker, educator, keunggulan nasional dan internasional, serta dapat berkontribusi pengembangan ilmu pengetahuan, teknologi, seni, budaya, dan olahraga. Mengabdikan diri pada ilmu pengetahuan serta tridharma perguruan tinggi, demikian juga Fakultas Ilmu Budaya. Tekad itu sejalan dengan visi kami, yaitu menjadi fakultas riset yang unggul di Asia Tenggara pada tahun 2025 dalam bidang kebudayaan yang meliputi sastra, bahasa, sejarah, antropologi, dan perpustakaan. Untuk mendukung kegiatan Tridharma, Fakultas Ilmu Budaya juga memiliki revenue generating activities berupa pusat layanan bahasa yang diberi nama Service English Unit. Fakultas Ilmu Budaya memiliki program studi yang menghasilkan lulusan berkompeten, meliputi program studi S3 Ilmu Sejarah, program studi S2 Ilmu Susastra, Linguistik, Ilmu Sejarah, serta program studi S1 Sastra Indonesia, Sastra Inggris, Sejarah Indonesia, Ilmu Perpustakaan, Bahasa dan Kebudayaan Jepang, dan Antropologi Sosial. Untuk menjadikan fakultas riset yang unggul dan terkemuka, Fakultas Ilmu Budaya menjalankan misinya, yaitu menyelenggarakan pendidikan berbasis penelitian yang berkualitas secara nasional dan internasional, mengembangkan penelitian dan publikasi ilmiah yang profesional sebagai sumbangan terhadap perkembangan ilmu pengetahuan dan seni, menyelenggarakan pengabdian kepada masyarakat berdasarkan hasil penelitian yang dilakukan oleh dosen dan mahasiswa sebagai upaya penerapan dan pengembangan ilmu pengetahuan dan seni. Kemudian menghasilkan karya pengabdian masyarakat yang memberi kontribusi bagi peningkatan taraf hidup masyarakat dan kemajuan bangsa, serta menumbuh kembangkan jiwa entrepreneurship berbasis iptek. Meningkatkan profesionalitas, kapabilitas, akuntabilitas dalam tata kelola serta kemandirian penyelenggaraan fakultas. Fakultas Ilmu Budaya bertujuan untuk menghasilkan lulusan yang memiliki kompetensi penelitian yang berkualitas dan berkeahlian profesional yang memiliki kemampuan akademik dan profesional, integritas moral, sikap ilmiah dan kritis, serta memiliki daya saing yang tinggi baik pada level nasional maupun internasional. Menghasilkan karya penelitian dan publikasi serta keahlian profesional yang inovatif dan berkualitas dalam bidang sastra, bahasa, sejarah, antropologi, dan perpustakaan. Mewujudkan situasi tata kelola pendidikan tinggi di fakultas yang efisien, akuntabel, transparan, berkeadilan, dan terintegrasi antar bidang di Fakultas Ilmu Budaya. Guna mencapai keunggulan sebagai fakultas riset, Fakultas Ilmu Budaya telah mempersiapkan program-program penelitian dan pengabdian kepada masyarakat yang dirancang dalam rencana bisnis anggaran fakultas setiap tahunnya. Sebagai upaya mendorong Fakultas Ilmu Budaya sebagai fakultas riset, semua kegiatan penelitian dan pengabdian kepada masyarakat diorientasikan ke arah publikasi baik nasional maupun internasional. Kerjasama dilakukan baik di dalam negeri maupun luar negeri guna memperoleh hasil yang optimal.
Fakultas Ilmu Budaya Universitas Diponegoro yang lahir tahun 1965 atau sekarang tepatnya telah menampaki usia 54 tahun, berkembang dengan pesatnya. Fakultas Ilmu Budaya yang dulu awalnya bernama Fakultas Sastra, banyak hal yang sudah berkembang, tidak hanya capaian-capaian berkaitan dengan SDM-nya yang semakin banyak jumlah doktor dan profesornya, tetapi juga kajian-kajian yang ada di dalamnya. Satu keunggulan yang sangat sulit dicari bandingannya di luar adalah bahwa di dalam Fakultas Ilmu Budaya ini ada satu hal yang sangat-sangat unik, yaitu adanya kajian yang berkaitan dengan budaya kemaritiman. Ini sesuai dengan pola ilmiah pokok di Universitas Diponegoro yang memang kepada hal yang berkaitan dengan masalah maritim. Ini merupakan satu keunggulan dari Fakultas Ilmu Budaya yang merupakan salah satu fakultas ilmu budaya terbaik yang ada di Indonesia. Saya berharap bahwa fakultas ini kemudian akan menjadi salah satu Center of Excellence dari Universitas Diponegoro di masa depan.
Target Undip adalah masuk dalam peringkat 500 World Class University. Nah, untuk itu Fakultas Ilmu Budaya itu memiliki 3 target dan 3 upaya. Yang pertama adalah tentang internasionalisasi. Internasionalisasi ini kami tempuh dengan cara mengirimkan dosen dan mahasiswa ke luar negeri dan juga mengundang mahasiswa luar negeri ke Fakultas Ilmu Budaya, baik itu dengan biaya bersama, artinya bersama dengan fakultas yang mengirim, ataupun kami memberi beasiswa sebagian. Lalu di bidang riset, kami juga harus unggul. Riset di bidang sosial humaniora itu sudah kami lakukan dengan cara bekerja sama dengan institusi di luar kampus, dan juga kami berupaya untuk mendapatkan dana dari dikti maupun dari universitas. Yang ketiga adalah di bidang digital. Yang kami upayakan adalah kami di setiap spot itu ada wifi dengan bandwidth yang cukup. Karena kami ikut Undip, sekarang kita sudah menggunakan namanya SSO, Single Sign On. Jadi dengan Single Sign On, semua mahasiswa, semua dosen, semua tendik itu memiliki akun, bisa masuk di sana, semua bisa di-cover melalui single sign on. Jadi baik itu administrasi, pengajaran, perkuliahan, lalu absensi, semua lewat single sign on, termasuk kami juga berlangganan jurnal-jurnal internasional yang mahal sekali. Tetapi dengan akses single sign on, mahasiswa bisa download sepuasnya itu. Jadi kami sekarang enak, jadi tidak ada kuliah yang misalnya jamnya tabrakan gitu, tidak ada dengan single sign on. Semua terdeteksi lewat komputer, lewat big data, dan saya duduk di sini buka laptop, saya sudah bisa mengakses misalnya serapan di fakultas, lalu kegiatan fakultas yang belum terrealisasi, jumlah mahasiswa yang aktif, jumlah mahasiswa yang cuti, semua itu bisa dengan tunjuk jari saja. Kami bangga dan kami senang dengan alumni Undip, IKFIB Undip, karena IKFIB Undip ini yang memotori kegiatan-kegiatan alumni yang holistik ya. Jadi kegiatan alumni tidak sekedar temu kangen atau kumpul-kumpul saja, tetapi sumbangsihnya untuk kemajuan FIB ini luar biasa. Alumni Undip sudah mengadakan seminar nasional beberapa kali di Fakultas Ilmu Budaya. Alumni Undip juga mengadakan
sosialisasi, memberi bekal terhadap para mahasiswa yang akan lulus. Jadi ke depan itu harus seperti apa. Dan di bawah pimpinan Ibu Agustin yang sekarang menjadi anggota DPR itu, alumni Fakultas Ilmu Budaya Undip ini menjadi partner, ya, menjadi partner fakultas untuk memajukan institusi.
FIB, dulu namanya Fakultas Sastra, memberi saya bekal yang luar biasa ketika saya kuliah. Dari situ saya belajar mengenai bahasa Inggris yang baik, sehingga sampai dengan hari ini saya memanfaatkan ilmu itu untuk mensupport karir saya sebagai politisi di Senayan. Juga ketika bertemu dengan para guru, dengan para dosen, dengan teman-teman kuliah, hari ini mereka semuanya menjadi orang-orang yang hebat. Sebagian besar adalah awak media yang sudah
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On the behalf of the Master Program in Linguistic, Diponegoro University, I would like to welcome you to the online international seminar, Teaching Language to Non-Native Speakers in Digital Era. I am Eta Farmacelia Nurul Hadi, and I'm honored to be the moderator of this exciting seminar. This online seminar is brought to you by Master Program in Linguistik, Diponegoro University, Indonesia, in cooperation with University Tun Hussein on Malaysia and University of Arizona, the United States of America. Master Program in Linguistik, Diponegoro University is one of the postgraduate programs in Diponegoro University whose vision is to be the excellent research-based study program in general and applied linguistics in Southeast Asia in 2025. And we are proud to inform you that in 2019, the program is awarded Grade A by the National Accreditation Agency for Higher Education, or BANPT Indonesia. For this online seminar, we are also proud to inform you that we have 802 registered participants coming from 6 countries, Indonesia, of course, and Malaysia, Thailand, Japan, Australia, and the United States of America. Our participants also come from various backgrounds, students, teachers, lecturers, and also the general public. And I believe that this will be an exciting seminar because most of Indonesians are, well, we are native speakers of Bahasa Indonesia and non-native speakers of English, most of us. And we are going to learn about that more, whether we are going to teach the languages or we are learners of those 2 languages. Before we start, I would like to read to you, to inform you the rundown of this seminar. We are going to start with singing the national anthem, Indonesia Raya, followed by the opening speech by the Dean of Faculty Humanities, Diponegoro University, who will also officially open the seminar. After that, we are going to move into the main session of the seminar, which is the presentation by our two speakers, our two invited speakers, followed by question and answer session, which will be discussions among us. And after that, we can close. Let's start by singing our national anthem, Indonesia Raya. I would like to invite the audience to stand up while singing the Indonesian national anthem, Indonesia Raya. I'm sorry. Next, we're going to listen to the opening speech from the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities, Dr. Nur Hayati M. Hum, who will officially open this online seminar. Nur Hayati, please.
Thank you, the Master of Ceremony, Bu Ita. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Excellency, the honorable guest speakers, Dr. Peter Suwarno, Associate Professor from Arizona State University, and then Dr. Zailin Shah Binti Yusuf, the Dean of Center for Language Studies, University Tun Hussein on Malaysia, distinguished participants coming from Indonesian and overseas, ladies and gentlemen, greeting from Diponegoro University. Good morning. It gives me great pleasure to extend to you all a very warm welcome. On behalf of the Faculty of Humanities, Diponegoro University, we are delighted and honored to host online international seminar or webinar for famous term on teaching language to non-native speakers in digital era. I think that the topic is very relevant today due to the pervasive technology that has interwoven almost all human activities. The advancements in technology in digital era has changed the way people communicate. New technological platforms have been developed because they are more efficient and faster in transmitting and sharing information. So recent developments in the worlds of technology and the internet have also provided new and numerous opportunities for teaching and learning. Ladies and gentlemen, the presence of digital technology replaced classroom face-to-face learning into online learning. It becomes a new challenge for both students and teachers to run online learning. Language teachers cannot avoid the new way of teaching. They must create a way to integrate technology into students' learning experience. Because without the aid of the new technology, language teaching may result in limited visual or artificial learning experience that do not fully addresses the need of the learners to achieve the desired objective. Ladies and gentlemen, language teachers must rely on technology as medium to deliver courses, aiming to adapt learning to the needs of a new generation, that is the E-generation. Those are a new group of students that has spent their entire life surrounded by and using many tools of the digital age. The generation may have a low tolerance for lectures and prefer active rather than passive learning. That leads to change the model of pedagogy. This generation is the generation that is more diverse, more knowledgeable, more interrogative, more competitive, and more demanding for their teachers. They have new way to understand any concept. So English teacher must be innovative. Ladies and gentlemen, to solve the problems, language teachers need to remodel the students to enhance their flexibility and make them to be able to adapt to different socio-cultural contexts, irrespective of the technology or the medium. Teachers must encourage students to be able to effectively communicate in different socio-cultural contexts, especially for innovativeness and continuities across mediums and times. All the situation encourage the master program in linguistic Diponegoro University conducting the new valuable seminars. Ladies and gentlemen, in this opportunity, I also would like to introduce the profile of the organizer of the seminar, that is the master program in linguistics. The 2-year master program on linguistics provide the students in-depth theoretical and applied knowledge, as well as the opportunity of gaining practical experience in profession, where knowledge of general linguistics and applied linguistics are important. Up to now, this program has offered master by course. However, in 2021, we also opened master by research program because there are many demands from stakeholder and also from student candidate who are willing to join the master program, but constrained by the time and distance in attending the lecturing activity. Our core business as a part of research university is producing professionals graduate on general linguistics and applied linguistics. So please don't hesitate to join our master programs. Ladies and gentlemen, in the end of my speech, I hope that this conference will be benefits for all participants. And I would like to thank the Faculty of Humanities, the Chief Committee, Dr. Catur Kepirianto Empum and his team, and Dr. Deli Nirmala as the head of the program. I also would like to thank to the invited speakers, Dr. Peter Suwarno and Dr. Zailin binti Yusuf. And by saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I hereby open the webinar on teaching language for non-native in digital era. And thank you for all participants who are willing to attend this conference until the end. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Ibu Eka.
Yeah, thank you, Ibu Nurhayati, for the opening speech and for opening this seminar. Before we start, I would like to remind you of some technical information. First of all, if you haven't done so, because most of you have already done that, but if you have not done so, please write your name on chat saying that you're present, put your name there and say that you're hadir, you're present in this seminar. That's for the certificate later. And I also would like to remind you to mute your microphone but turn on your video so that we know that you are there and not doing something else somewhere else while attending this seminar. During the presentation, audience are invited to write the questions in the chat room, and the committee will collect the questions, and I will read the questions to the presenters later during our question and answer session. Somebody asked about the attendance list. The link to the attendance list will be given 60 minutes before the end of this conference. And you are also asked to fill in the evaluation form in order to get the certificate. Certificate will be sent to the emails, your emails. If you have already provided us with emails, and we're going to send you the certificates to your emails. So that's the technical information. Before we listen to the presentation, I would like to give a brief introduction to our two guest speakers. Today, we are honored to have Bapak Dr. Peter Suwarno and Ibu Dr. Zailin Shah Haja Yusuf with us. Bapak Dr. Peter Suwarno is an associate professor and director of undergraduate studies at the School of International Letters and Cultures, as well as an affiliated faculty member of the Center for the Studies of Religion and Conflicts at Arizona State University, the United States of America. He has served as a resident director of several U.S. government-sponsored Indonesian abroad programs, Consortium for the Teaching of Indonesia, Critical Language Scholarship, and Critical Language Institute. His teaching and research interests include Indonesian languages and linguistics and Indonesian religious communication and conflict. He published papers in these areas and authored Dictionary of Japanese Proverbs and Idiomatic Expressions. As you can see, don't worry, the presentation will be in English, but if you don't understand some of the presentation, you can ask Pak Peter to speak in Indonesian language or even Japanese if you are Japanese like me. And our second guest speaker is Ibu Dr. Zailin Shah Haja Yusuf. She has a doctorate degree in English language studies, and her research interests are in the fields of writing and computer-assisted language learning and teaching. She has conducted numerous researches and written various publications on these areas in reputed journals. Ibu Zailin Shah is currently the Dean of the Center for Language Studies, as well as the chairperson for the Malaysian Public University's Language Dean's Council. Her perspective on teaching is that it should be like setting fire to the mind. When appropriately controlled, it can provide inspirational light. Well, I like this analogy. Okay, so we have two experts in teaching language to non-native speakers. I would like to invite Dr. Peter Suwarno first to give the presentation. And after that, we are going to listen to the presentation from Ibu Dr. Zailin Star. Each presenter will present the presentation in about 25 minutes to 30 minutes. And I will remind the speakers if it's already 20 minutes. So let's join me in giving warm welcome to Bapak Dr. Peter Suwarno.
Thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Selamat pagi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Shalom. Om Swastiastu. Namo Budaya. Dan salam kebajikan. I would like to thank the organizing committee, especially the Dean of Fakultas Ilmu Budaya, Dr. Nur Hayati, and the Director of the Postgraduate Program, Dr. Deli Nirmala. It really is an honor to be able to keep in touch, although online this time. Remember that we have an MOU between FEB and my school. I'm now the Associate Director of the School of International Letters and Culture at Arizona State University. And as my job as the undergraduate steering committee and the undergraduate studies director, we have a great challenge this semester, starting from last semester. So when we change from on ground, face-to-face in classrooms, and we have to suddenly change into online. So we have quite a bit of online program. We have quite a bit of the online language programs already, but we are developing and we're gonna have more. The reason is, I think the pandemic is gonna last a little longer than we thought. So we are challenged to change our approach to really gear toward more online language teaching at Arizona State University. That is inevitable. But the challenge is that it is the standard, okay? So on ground, there's a lot of things you can do on ground. Well, can we do a lot of things online, okay? So today I'm not gonna talk about the details of the technicality of online, like uploading, selecting material, combining to make it interactive. Those are a little bit more technical, and I think the younger generation, even my TAs, are also much better than I do, in doing all those. So I would like to focus more on the design, on the foundation, on the theoretical framework. What would make an Indonesian online language program successful? And this is based on my experience as the resident director of the CLS in Malang and now also CLS in Bali, okay? We still have those programs, especially CLI, the Critical Language Institute is still conducted the past summer. And again, the challenges are the same. So, and in Indonesia, you are also forced to go online. And what would you do? What should you do? What are important things that we have to consider in order to establish a successful online language program? Oke, bisa mengerti semua ya, saya kira ya. Bahasa Inggrisnya udah bagus-bagus. Nggak usah switch ke Indonesian kan, terus saja ya. Oke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oke. Jadi, so what I'm going to talk about is the design, the requirements, what to make it successful, and later on, if you are interested in the tasks, okay, interactive tasks, collaborative tasks, and all those, Dr. Yusuf, the next presenter, will elaborate that. So we kind of complement each other. Okay. Okay, I would like to share my PowerPoint, if you don't mind. Let me see here. All right. So let me start from the very beginning. Okay, let me see. Can you see that? Am I sharing it right? Okay, great. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. So, teaching Indonesian to non-native speakers in digital era. And okay, when you ask, I took it from website, what do websites say if you want to establish an online language program? Okay, these are the requirements. You have to have competent native speakers as instructors. You have to have certification to teach. You have to have the right hardware and software and strong internet connection and all that. And you have to create a resume profile and then sell it. You have a PayPal account and all that. And it's ready. You're ready to go. Okay. Well, actually, no. There's so much more in establishing a language program. So I, based on my experience trying to sell my online language program to get sponsor, to get grants, to get money from government, United States government, the government of education especially. So what do I try to sell, especially in my proposal? I try to show the facilities, try to show the methods. We have great resources. We have native speakers. They don't seem to be very impressed about that, okay? So yes, facilities is important, methods is important, resources, but they want to hear something else that is way more important than anything. That is our ability to raise the learner's proficiency to higher level. Jadi kalau udah selesai itu anak bisa apa? So I will give you money. I will fund your program. I'll give you time 2 months or 1 semester. But tell me, what can you do? What can you help? How can you raise the proficiency of the learners? Okay, that's more important. So they are more result-oriented kind of thing, Yeah, if I told me the program is like this, interactive, a lot of resources, okay, that's good. That's good. But most importantly is to raise the learner's proficiency into higher level. If they start intermediate, they should go to advanced. If they start in elementary, they should go to intermediate, for example, okay? So that's one thing. And then we have to base, ya nggak bisa kita intermediate itu yang kayak apa, ya. Advanced itu yang kayak apa. So we have to have, this is another thing in the proposal you have to have. You have to show that you follow a guideline in determining the levels of the proficiency. So in America, it's very famous to use the ACFL. A lot of people use ACFL. So we use ACFL, okay? Okay, this is another thing too, what we have to state in our proposal actually. It is mostly the responsibility of the program and instructors, not only the responsibility of the learners to make it successful. Jadi saya punya keponakan di Indonesia itu sudah belajar bahasa Inggris di kursus-kursus 2 tahun. Terus saya ketemu, saya bicara bahasa Inggris masih pelebukan. Nah, yang dipelajari apa? Ya banyak itu, bahannya bagus, semua bagus Om. Tapi ya saya kurang rajin saja. Nah, even the learners sometimes feel guilty for not doing the work online. Okay? We have all the resources is there. It's up to the learners to learn, to acquire, to be proficient. No, in the proposal, no, it is the responsibility of the instructors. So if the students fail, it is not only the failure of the students, but most importantly, it is the responsibility of the programs and the instructors. So when we have CLS in Malang, so the government gave us, okay, these are the students you will have to bring, you will have to train, you'll have to teach. And I want them to have proficiency. Okay, it is the responsibility of the programs and the instructors. Okay, so before you start your online program, you really have to know what the advantages and disadvantages of online language learnings are. And there are many, okay? The disadvantages, it is time consuming, especially at the beginning, at the start. It really takes a lot of time. We started for example, now Romanian in my universities, and then we have Chinese. We try to make it into online. It really is time consuming. If you really want to build a good program, it takes a lot, okay? You can read yourself, you know what it is, because I take it also from a website, this one, I collected that. These are the challenges, but these are also the advantages. There are advantages. The availability of resources. Imagine, online, you can collect all kinds of resources. They are available even online. And you can also create yourself. There's a lot of rooms for creativity. And there's also flexibility. The learners can do it anywhere, anytime. You know, they can face it themselves, you know, they can work, you know, whatever. There are a lot of flexibility. But all these advantages has to be maximized. For example, the ability to collaborate, you know, the ability of the students or learners to collaborate, it does not depend on the learners, okay? The instructor have to maximize the opportunities, the facilities to be able to help, okay? Even the advantages is not going to be automatically there, you know, online. You really have to work on it, okay? All right. So today, actually, I'm going to talk just 4 things, but the last one, the implementation procedure, that involves task-based. So I will leave it to Dr. Yusuf to continue talking about implementation procedure and on the task-based, on the tasks, not just on the task activities, okay? So I will basically focus on the 3 things, the facilities a little bit, and then the approach and principles, foundation, sort of the grounds for developing an online program, and then the design, okay, the design. And that already a lot to talk. I don't know if I can cover everything in details in the time that is given to me, okay? So, and this is not all my ideas. For example, the idea of approach, design, and implementation, these 3 aspect is already discussed a lot by the experts before, like Richards and Rogers on communicative language teaching. They also talk about this idea of the design, okay? All right, devices. So this is what we have to choose. At Arizona State University, we have been using Blackboard. This is like for the online learning management system. And we have a lot of that. This is like a sort of the platform where you build your online program, okay? And there is the free version, always free version. But if you want to really maximize use for creativity, really enhancing the opportunities for the students or the learners to learn more, you really have to buy, you have to pay, okay? And usually institutions with a lot of money like Undip, you know, can provide this, you know. We used to have Blackboard, and we learned that there's a lot of features that we want to expand that was not able. So now we change it into Canvas. Okay, and I'll give you an example later when we have the time what Canvas looked like, because now at Arizona State University, we're using Canvas. This is like the platform only. It's a lot of activities in it, a lot of elements, a lot of aspects that you can build, okay? So room for creativity is there. It depends on us and how to fill it, okay? But what is important is to make it, to fill this with a lot of interactive media. And the 2 popular ones at Arizona State University are Flipgrid and VoiceThread, okay? For Flipgrid is like a short conversation, a short oral presentation that student can share. It's just a means of collaboration, you know, conversation that can record and then upload it. So if you have a lot of assignments, small one, this is very good. Flipgrid is pretty good. VoiceThread is the same. Zoom is also possible, but it's a little bit of complicated, a little bit takes longer time. This is a little bit easier for me. You know, Zoom is like, yeah, like Zoom, like now you can record it and then you have the interaction and then you record it and then send it or upload it, you know, as part of the assignments, okay? Okay, what I will emphasize in all this will be, will all this platform and interactive media enhance collaboration? And I will emphasize why collaboration is really important in language learning. Okay, we have online programs. Undip also has online programs. I know it's wonderful, but I haven't looked at it. But there's a lot of other places, private courses also now starting online programs. And you know what? This is the reason of my presentation is also partly because of what I see there is the lack of collaborative tasks. The lack of, I think, is interaction among the learners, okay? There is no strong encouragement or no facilitation from the program to really require the students to have a lot of collaborative activities, interaction. And then also eventually to build what we call e-learning community, okay? it is very important for online language program to build an e-learning community, okay? And I will talk more about that later, okay? Let me go to the next one. Oh. Okay, so we have the modes. Okay, this is another thing that I look at in a lot of online. You know, there's a lot of possibilities with the programs, the software, the interactive media that we have now. The possibility for creativity is endless. And it's amazing that in some online program, I look at it, so many verbal exercises, a lot of readings, a lot of answer questions, but all more textual. No, not verbal, I mean textual. There's a lot of text. And at the beginning level, especially, there's so many that you can do with audio visual, okay? So my impression is there's a lack of creative audio visual that enhance learners engage in interactive tasks, okay? Engage learners in interactive tasks. That's very important. And then later also establish collaboration among learners. Okay, online programs, a lot of them can be just independent, okay? Because the idea of online is, hey, it's an independent learning. You can pace it yourself at your time, you know, whenever you can do it. No, I think that's wrong, okay? Online program should have timeline, and the timeline must be completed, and there should be collaborative engagement, but there also has to create a learning community. Learners in an online program must know each other, must have a relationship with each other so that they can communicate and interact and use the language, the target language, okay? Use only the target language is very important, okay? And then there's a lot of interactive media that I told you also. It also has to result in production, okay? There's a lot of, well, in teaching, and a lot of teaching, sometimes we want to show how great materials we have. We emphasize on the availability of the materials. No, I think the emphasis should be the materials that we uploaded there should lead to the students or the learners' production, okay? The production of the learners are very important in online learning. So if you want to measure how much the students gain, how successful your online program is, look at how much production that students have made, okay? If there's a lot of products, a lot of video recording, a lot of sounds, a lot of, you know, that kind of thing, okay? And this is what I was amazed actually. You know, somebody, hey, what are you learning? You're busy in your room, you know, and then you're learning a language, and then there's a silence. It's quiet. Belajar bahasa diam aja suaranya ndi. No, learning language should be noisy. There has to be a lot of noise. So if you're engaged in an online learning and you're quiet, I don't think you learn anything, okay? That exercise must enhance, force the learners to produce sounds. They have to write, well, okay, writing, that's fine, but a lot I actually like, it's really at the beginning. It's very important for the learners to produce a lot, okay? So learners who are participated in online language learning must be noisy, okay? In the room, okay? It's bothering other people because you're shouting, you're trying to pronounce words, you're trying to say sentences, you're trying to record your introduction, whatever. So it's noisy. So if it's quiet, then it's not a good online language learning, okay? All right, okay. And then we talk about, no, before that actually, we talk about synchronous and asynchronous. I know you know all that. Synchronous is real time. It takes place here, now, real time. It's only mediated by the computer, by the instrument, but it is still face-to-face, okay? But it's real time, okay? So that, just like what we do now, this is synchronous. But asynchronous is all the exercise, all the materials is already uploaded in the online, in the program, okay? In the web, in the link. so the student access them anytime they want. They can practice anytime they want, okay? It doesn't have to be here and now, okay? So that's asynchronous. So my suggestion later is that asynchronous only programs are not very good. Wow, okay. I want you to disagree later, you know, toward the end. I want people to disagree with me, what I said here. Asynchronous program for language learning, just relying on asynchronous is not good, okay? There are reasons why. One of the reasons is that, okay, they pace it themselves, then you don't know. Even if you give timeline, the students tend to drag, you know? They tend to have less discipline in doing it. So you have to check every now and then. You have to have a meeting, a synchronous one, okay, for different purposes, including for assessment, okay? So synchronous, I like hybrid in terms of a combination of synchronous and asynchronous, although hybrid can also mean a combination of online and on ground, okay? But, okay, we'll talk about why it is. Synchronous is very important, even if you have asynchronous program. Okay, I want to go to the next one. So the first one was the device, the platform, the interactive media and all that, and how to use it creatively for collaborative learning. The second principle is if you are studying language, second language acquisition theory, this is all, you're very familiar with this. You know, communicative approach, you know, everybody talk about communicative approach, and then communicative language teaching. Although in reality, in application, it really is the detail that matters to make it really communicative. So you know the principles like learners learn using language to communicate. So the use of language is to communicate, okay? And the communication must occur in meaningful, contextual, authentic environment, okay? So it's not made up. So ini budi, ini bapak budi, that is artificial, okay? Why talk about ini bapak budi when you can talk about yourself and your teacher? And that is real, okay? So you don't want to talk about something that is not contextual and unreal. All right. Okay. And then I will say, this is a little bit controversial. You can ask me why, but in your online program, it must emphasize fluency. That's why I emphasize the importance of production. Where is the production? Where is the student oral presentation? You know, where is the right pronunciation that students recorded, okay? So fluency is more important than grammar, okay? So people, if your online program talks so much about grammar, you know, that's, I don't know. Now, the grammar, even the grammar can be integrated into a lot of tasks, okay? A lot of tasks that are interactive using pictures, videos, and all that. I can give you a little example later, the contrast between grammar teaching that is really just explanation and mechanical versus the one that is a little bit more contextual and communicative, if we have the time, okay? Okay, so this is very important. The main purpose of the class, of the program, is to facilitate the learners to use language in meaningful contextual communication. The purpose is not to show the materials, how wonderful the pictures are, interesting videos. Yeah, those are good. Those are good. But at the end of the day, how much have we facilitated the learners to use the language in a meaningful contextual communication? And this is another theory about the tasks, okay? That communication, you know, in real context, meaningful context is very important. Okay. So if you talk about language for communication, then oral proficiency is more important than written. Okay. This is another challenge that we have in a lot of online English. There's some English program in Indonesia that are online. Okay. A lot of it really lack the emphasis on oral production. That's why in Indonesia, I met a lot of people who graduated with a sarjana degree, learning English in English faculty for 4 years, but they're not very confident in speaking in English. And this is very bad because this is contagious, because they will teach in high school and their oral proficiency is not at the advanced level, yet there are English teachers at high school. Okay, you can imagine if the teachers of English themselves are not at the advanced level, oral proficiency advanced level, how can they be a teacher that will produce learners that are good in oral communication? Back to my nieces and nephews, you know, when I ask them, hey, ngomong bahasa Inggris sama Om, kamu kan sudah kursus lama. Oh yeah, they're not very confident. They're not very confident. And the reason being, there's a lot of programs that really emphasize on writing, reading, and lack on the emphasis of the oral production. As I said, you know, the noisy part has to be the learners, not the teachers. This is also has something to do with the idea of learner-centered instead of teachers or instructor-centered, okay? We'll talk more about that when we have time. I think you understand sort of the concept. I want to go to the third part, which is very important if you want to design an online language program, is you have the right syllabus. The design of the syllabus is also geared toward the students, the learners' production, not the production of the teachers of the program, okay? You're looking at how much the learner produce, okay? And I emphasize orally, partly because in Indonesia, my experience, you know, a lot of a student learning English for how many years, and yeah, they know how to write and read probably, but they really are not confident in speaking, okay? That's why we need to emphasize that. Even in Indonesian, actually, oral proficiency is very important. Even the grantor of the people, the agency, government agents who give us money, the test that we use is oral proficiency interview. You know what that means? Oral is everything. Okay, so we gear toward the learners who have the oral capacity to use the language more than writing. Okay, you can challenge me with that question later, okay? And then you can look at your program, okay? Are my program really gearing toward forcing the students to have oral proficiency, or are they just being able to read and write, okay? All right, let's go. So the syllabus that we have, so we made the guideline at Arizona State University. This is what basically we do. 4 languages that have to follow this guideline. First is they have to have the description and the goal. Okay, the goal you have to specify of the proficiency levels. So if you have a syllabus, you have a class, you know what type of students should be in that class. Is it for beginners? Is it for intermediate? Is it for advanced? Now, the way you specify the proficiency level is also realized in the learning outcomes. You'll have to have learning outcomes and in all skills, okay? And this is where we come to the problems at Arizona State University. We had that problem of levels. So now we standardize. We standardize all languages taught at Arizona State University to use ACFL guideline. Meaning, if you say this is intermediate, this is really intermediate. You know, in the past, some people pass intermediate, but they are actually at the novice high level. We don't want that. If you call it, call spade a spade, okay? Call intermediate, intermediate, a real intermediate. How do you know that it is intermediate? That's why we have ACFL guideline. In Indonesia, you don't have to use ACFL guideline. You can have CEVFR, IRR, whatever from Australia, from Europe. But you have to really have, if you want to have a good, successful, sophisticated online language program, you really have to have a guideline, proficiency guideline. That is, in this case, I will explain a little bit about ACFL guideline, okay? And under ACFL guideline, in the learning outcome, you have can-do statement. So every week, so we divide our syllabus into weekly schedule or modules. And the module has activities. The activities has the procedure, it has tasks that the learners have to complete, it has the assignment, it has the quiz and all that, okay? So in each module, it also has can-do statement. So the students or the learners will have to look at what have you achieved or what do you have to achieve in week 1. For example, week 1.
Peter, I'm sorry to interrupt. It's 25 minutes already.
Oh, go. Okay. I want you to read the ACFL guideline here by yourself, okay? See, I tend to talk a lot more.
Well, it's interesting.
All right, now I'm going to go ahead. So this is the proficiency guideline. The proficiency guideline has a descriptor. So it has can-do statement. Oh, I'm sorry. So, let me go a little bit faster. So we also have hours, okay? In our proposal also, each language from elementary to intermediate actually has a number of hours. So if you already learned the language for 16 weeks or 480 hours, you have to achieve from intermediate at least, from low with nothing, no knowledge of no proficiency in language, into at least intermediate low or even intermediate high. Okay, so that is, we have the calculation for each of this, you know, from elementary, intermediate. We use not only descriptor of what intermediate and advanced are, but we also have the time to be able to achieve that. If after 500 hours, you cannot move from elementary to intermediate, then you don't have a good program. Again, as I said, you know, it is the responsibility of the instructors and the program, you know, to make the students learn or have the proficiency level desired. This is an example of can-do statement. Okay, you have to put it on the online, on your weekly schedule. Hey, this week, I can introduce myself and someone else. I can respond appropriately in a gesture. Or non. This is a cultural aspect. I can answer question about what I'm doing. That is the first week. Okay, you can design your own actually, you know, but it has to be like based on the levels. Okay, all right. And then, okay, I want to talk about just real quick, synchronous and asynchronous. You know what the problem is? You have to be able to differentiate. There are activities that have or can be done asynchronously. There are activities that should be done synchronously. Okay, for example, if you want to test how far the students have learned, you know, if you use asynchronous, you know, computer-based tests, they tend to be a little bit objective. And in my experience also, they can plagiarism, you know, student prepare it and, you know, manipulate a little bit here and there. And sometimes they can do several attempts and then they can do the test, computer-based. Yeah, I don't really like it. I think that the assessment has to be done synchronously. So at least if you have an online program, once a week, test the students if you don't have time. For the asynchronous, there's a lot of things that have to be done asynchronously. You know, one thing that is amazing for me, but I was really, you know, mad with some instructors actually teach in class and then ask the learners to read the material in class. Things that can be done asynchronously should not be done in synchronous interaction. Okay, so there's such an example. Grammar explanation. Why do you use synchronous time for grammar explanation? Grammar explanation, either video, audio, or text or exercise, all can be done asynchronously. Okay, all right. Okay, motivation is very important. And then tasks, you know, it has to be motivating. One of the problem is motivation and interest. If you don't have interesting and you don't really have the capacity, the charm in trying to, of the program, in trying to really motivate the learner, it's not going to be successful. Motivation is key in online learning, okay? And the motivation actually build routine and discipline and commitment, okay? Commitment is very important, okay? And then active participation, interaction, and then collaboration, and then e-learning community. Why is it important to have an e-learning community? Because our internet, our media, interactive media, there's so many of them that you can form. I'm forming one now, for example, with my nephews and nieces, actually. Hey, you want to have an e-learning community? Let's use WhatsApp. Everybody is using WhatsApp in Indonesia, okay? Okay, let's use WhatsApp. Okay, in this WhatsApp, we have a group, and in that group, only English. Nobody use Indonesian. And it's expanding. I think we're learning more there. And we have a connection that we have to use English, okay? And sometimes we uploaded audio and video also. Video is a little bit hard on there, but audio, we can use that. We can use Facebook, but it has to be all in English. Now, the problem is there's one group that try to create e-learning communities and use in English, and then it turned out to be like a joke. They're joking about plesetan some words in English, and they joke, and they're not really serious. Okay, so that's e-learning. E-learning communities is very important part of online program. If you have online program, you have to really create e-learning community for the learners to interact with each other. Okay, this is just an example of grammar. Hey, there are some grammar exercise online I just took this from online actually. Hey, they have multiple choice like that. Wait a minute. You can have this. You can have a picture. You can have video. Along with the grammar exercise to make it a little bit more contextual. Okay. All right. That was collaborative task I talk about. Conclusion is basically what I have outlined, but oral proficiency test is something that I think every instructor, you don't have to be certified. A lot of our instructors at Arizona State University are not certified to do the OPI test or oral proficiency interview, but they are trained and have a lot of good grasp on what it is, and they can do the test themselves. All right. Thank you very much. I think I take a lot of time. We can move on to the next one. Thank you very much for the time.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Peter. It's very interesting. I wish I didn't have to interrupt you. But yeah, I think we have everything that we need to hear from Pak Peter. I already have lots of questions that I will read later in question and answer session. So after listening to the presentation on how to teach Indonesian language to non-native speakers of Indonesian language, we are now going to listen to the presentation from Ibu Dr. Zelin Shah on teaching English to non-native speakers in digital era. So I'm a learner of English language as well, so I think all of us will benefit from the presentation from Ibu Dr. Zelin Shah. So let's join me in welcoming Ibu Dr. Zelin Shah Yusuf.
Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Yeah, you can see my slides. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to everyone. Thank you to the chairperson, Miss Etta, for the introduction. All right, and I'm honored to be here again with Pak Peter. Yeah, we've been on the stage together this is our second time. All right, and last year it was in Semarang, so this year it has to be online. All right, so I would also like to thank the organizing committee, especially Dr. Nur Hayati, the Dean of FIB, and Dr. Deli, as well as Mas Chatur for the email back and forth. All right, so I'm Zailin Shah Yusuf. I am from the Center of Language Studies, University Tun Hussein On. So I will be with you sharing a little bit of what I have gone through in teaching English to non-native speakers. All right. When I got this topic, from Dr. Deli actually, all right, she was saying teaching English to non-native speakers. I'm like, how am I going to come up with my slide? Because I am more concerned with just teaching in the digital era. That means bringing whatever you teach to the online classroom. All right. So some parts of my discussion will be very generic in terms of teaching, transforming your teaching from the physical face-to-face to the digital era, okay? Meaning migrating from face-to-face to online, all right? So when I mention online, so I will definitely be referring to what we say as the digital era, okay? So when I have this topic, the question that is begging me for an answer is this an option or is this a necessity? So that question is at the back of my mind, because computer-assisted language learning is the field that I'm really interested in from the beginning of when it started, when they say the knowledge age started in the 21st century, okay? I have already dabbled in online teaching, you know, and observing how students learn for a long time. But it's been like a trial and error. So today, my presentation will go from the general information about teaching online, and I will go into walk you through my classroom and something that I have already implemented in my classroom. Okay, so if it's okay with you, let's begin. All right, so the outline of my presentation will be, I will be giving you a bit of the current scenario as I said just now. Then I will start on walking you through my classroom, where to start, what to use, and so on and so forth. All right, so if you have any questions or whatever, just put in a chat so I can help you. I may not have all the answers, but I will help answer what I can. All right, so when we talk about the digital era, when did it start? Is it something that is like, poof, you know, it just happened overnight? No, the digital era has started when, you remember in if you all are old enough to remember, when we wanted to change from 1999 to 2000, and people were saying, you better keep your money in the bank properly because suddenly it will just go off because it's the digital era, okay? It started from that time. So this is what we call the knowledge age. So it has been around for the past 20 years, actually, this digital or knowledge age, all right? But why are we concerned with it today? Why, all right? Because one, if you observe around you, like for example, in Malaysia, if you go to a restaurant today, now, I mean, you can't go now because there's COVID, right? But before this, if you went to the restaurant, right? And you see little children, even at the age of 2 or 3, you know, they will have a gadget with them, you know. The babysitter for the parents, while the parents are eating, the babysitter is not a person, but maybe an iPad or the parents' handphone. So you will see children as young as 5 or 6 being able to go from YouTube to an application to entertain themselves while their parents are eating. So these are the children that we have now. And the students that we have now, okay, for example, I say, okay, I want you to come up with a presentation using Powtoon. And I don't have to go into the intricacies of, okay, use this, first you do this, second you do this. No, they will learn on their own. So this is what we call the Gen Z students, who are what we call the digital natives. So whether we like it or not, the question that I asked just now, is it an option? Is it a necessity? Definitely a necessity. It's no longer an option. So whether you like it, whether you're stuck in the dark ages or you are already here, but half of your feet is in the digital era, the other half doesn't want to leave the ground, you have to embrace it, because you like it or not, the students that we are teaching are already so much ahead of us. Okay, so Harasim has already seen this juxtaposition where students outside from the classroom, they are so exposed to technology, but when they come to the classroom, the teacher is still using the book, the teacher is still using the pen, the teacher is still writing on the whiteboard, or God forbid, the chalkboard, and a few PowerPoints here and there. All right, okay, is that technology? Okay, it's not. So there is a juxtaposition between learners' ability and their preferences and the classroom itself. That's why you see students, after 10 minutes of teacher talking, they will switch off. All right, so this is what Harasim says, the key features of the knowledge age. The 21st century, okay, the 21st century is referred to the knowledge age, okay, in time which knowledge has social and economic value, okay, and today's youth are described as the net generation raised in the culture of the internet, viewing the web as integral. So they breathe, they find information, they buy things, they interact with their friends, even with their family, using the internet. So it's part and parcel of their life. Yet, our education practices does not significantly reflect or address this reality. So you can see the difference between what's outside and what's in the classroom. So that is the main problem. And Harasim, who is a person who is very involved in online technology, okay, teaching online, has already mentioned this from 2012, okay? So, but we are still talking about it in 2020. So, one thing, then COVID happened, okay? Juxtaposition, then COVID happened. So when COVID happened, within 3 weeks, whether you like it or not, you have to go online, all right? Like for us at our university, within 2 weeks, we were already told to migrate and try distance learning, as they say, okay? So there's no idea of what do you call it, hybrid, or there's no blended learning, nothing. It's fully online, okay? Or like in Australia. In Australia, the curriculum is as such where students only come in, if they're engineering students, they come in for lab. But the rest, they will come in for, they will do it online. So now with COVID, I feel that it's a pandemic, but also a blessing for the teachers, okay? We learn new things. We need to move from here, from where we are most complacent, to go a step further, to be at par with our students, all right? So when you look at it, okay, COVID made us go into the deep end, okay, threw us in the deep end, all right? So as the analogy of deep end, you know, you go in, if you're thrown in the water, if you can't swim, you have to learn, you know, you sink or you swim or you die, all right? So you need to actually embrace it. So you are thrown in the deep end. Within 2 weeks, you must be an expert online teacher, okay? You like it or not, because at the end of the month, you are paid. If you don't do online teaching, your boss will get angry at you. So however, for me, as I said just now, it's a pandemic. Many people die and things like that. But in terms of teaching, there is a blessing behind it, because I still feel that sometimes the best results comes when you are thrown in the deep end. When people are complacent, you know, people, as I said just now, 1 foot on the bandwagon, 1 foot on the other, on the ground, you know, this is the thing that will propel them straight onto the bandwagon. So for us here, why are there 700 people or 270 people engaged in today's webinar, apart from the certificate that you get at the end, okay? It is also because you want to know, how am I going to improve my practice, all right? So how do we, as in all, what do you call it, being thrown in the deep end, there are various challenges, okay? So we have to look at it from both perspectives, all right? Both from the teachers and the students' perspectives on the challenges of going into the digital era. Okay, let's look at the teacher's perspective. Teachers' lack of online teaching experience, okay? Yeah, within 2 weeks, you already said people, like for example, in Malaysia, teachers are said, okay, now you use Google Form. And somebody said, I've never used Google Form before. How can I come up with a Google Form? You know, who do I ask for help? There's no one to help. You're alone at home. So you just wing it. Okay, you just have to learn it. And finally, by the end of the semester, you're a pro at Google Form, for example. Or you're a pro at PowerPoint 360, for example. Okay, so lack of online teaching experience. All right. Second, no early preparation. You don't have the semester break to prepare your materials, your assessment, your curriculum, designing your curriculum, like what Pak Peter said just now, you have to design your curriculum. You don't have time, okay? You are straight away thrown into the deep end. So what do? Okay? So minimum support from educational technology teams. Of course, you don't have your ID, you don't have your instructional designer, you don't have your IT technicians to help you. Hey, excuse me, my Wi-Fi is not working. How am I going to do it? You don't have the technician. You're at home. So what do? You have to troubleshoot on your own. So you learn new things. So it's a new learning curve. Okay, that's one challenge. Okay, as for the students, This one I got from my students themselves, okay? Lack of self-discipline. All right, when you're at home, when you're learning at home, you're online, you know, or even if COVID doesn't happen anymore. Like for UTHM, we are moving into hybrid, which is some online, some are face-to-face, you know, but more online. So when you teach online, the one challenge for the students is lack of self-discipline. Okay, one of my students said, how can I concentrate in class, madam? My mother is all, I do my work at the table, at the dinner table. My mother is always cooking for me. And if I don't eat, she will pull her face. You know? So that is lack of self-discipline, you know? Parents just don't get it. Like if you're home, you're on holiday. Okay? All right, next. Lack of suitable learning materials. Okay, lack of suitable learning materials. Of course, when students are at home, you don't have a good stocked up online library from your university or even especially at schools, where are you going to get your suitable learning materials? If you go online on Google, you're not sure if they are good enough. All right. Lack of good learning environments. Okay, I get this from my students. I can't do my assignments. Why? Why can't you do it on time? Why can't you send it on time? I have to feed the chickens. I have to babysit my brother. I have to cook. I have to clean the house, you know, as I said just now, when our children are at home, parents think that they are on holiday sometimes, okay? So lack of good learning environments, and of course, at home, learning is social, you know, and our students are very social beings. So when they are at home on their own, they feel self-isolated. That's when their depression and lack of motivation to learn sets in. So these are the anticipated challenges if you want to go online with your classes. All right. So how are you going to tackle that? All right. Let's have a look. Okay. All right. Another challenge that I find is that students, you know, how are you going to tackle it? Okay. What is the first step you have to look at? First, you have to look at your students. Okay. For me, I have to look at my students. What do my students want? As Pak Peter just said just now, we are the teachers. We are the ones who have to prepare. All right. So the students will take the baton from us and follow what we set for them. All right. And complete it and achieve whatever proficiency that we have set. But the work is ours. So in order for the work for us to design a good classroom, a good online classroom, you must first look at your students. What do they want? All right. So with Gen Z students, okay, they want to be engaged in their learning process. If you look at the students today, they don't like to sit and just listen to you. They'll be fidgeting, they'll be looking at their phone. So you have to have tasks which engage them in the learning process. Second, they welcome challenges. So you cannot give them fill in the blanks, especially at university level. Match up, you know, change this from the present to the past tense. Oh, come on. Okay. Primary school, maybe. Okay. Beginning level, maybe. But what is the challenge in that? How are you going to make that challenging? Embed it in a game. That one you need to answer. Okay. All right. Enjoy group discussion. As I said just now, they are social beings, these Gen Z students. Okay. Prefer highly interactive learning environment where they can pull resources from different places, from the library, from Google, from here, from whatever that they have the resources from. Okay. And then think learning is without boundaries and they can learn anywhere, anytime. Like somebody from Indonesia can interact with someone in Malaysia to complete a task in the English language classroom. It's not impossible. Okay. So they like that, the feeling of being international, that one. Okay. Prefer learning that involves active collaboration with their team members. Okay. And enjoy learning at places other than their classroom. Okay. In the virtual world, especially. You know, this is where gamification comes in. You know, they can feel as though they are in a virtual world, in a different place through a virtual world, but sitting in their own living room, for example. Okay. And then like the use of digital tools and online forums as they prefer to be integrated in their learning process. Okay, that is one. You look at the learning preferences of your students before you design your classroom. Next, you need to see the skills that they need. So if you look at World Economic Forum, okay, the top 10 skills that are needed in 2020 are complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, negotiation skill, coordinating with others. So if you look at it, if you look at this list and look at the learning preferences of the students, you can see, okay, you can match that if you cater to the learning preferences of the students, you would already have embedded these 10 skills within your classroom curriculum. Okay, all right. So moving on. So online learning modes, as I said, I won't go into this because Prof. Peter has already touched on this. So there are modes. The third thing that you have to think of, which mode do you want to use? Do you want to use hybrid or blended learning? You want to use mobile learning because students, they prefer to bring their handphones rather than their computers. Okay, social learning, you need to make it collaborative. I think Pak Peter had said a number of times, it has to be collaborative, it has to be collaborative, okay? And then you might want to go into simulation, you might go into game-based learning, you know, giving them a different environment from what they have now. Okay, so where to start? All right, now I'm going to walk you through of how I start with designing my own classroom. So first of all, I have this 4-step plan. Okay, even from the beginning of when I started teaching, which was 30 years ago, okay, I always have this. I need to survey first, I plan, I execute, and then I review. Okay. After I did my master's, then I understood, okay, what I was doing has a name to it. It is called action research, classroom research. So first of all, you need to survey. You need to survey. Raise hand. Why are you raising your hand? Okay. You can ask later, okay? Okay, survey. You need to survey your students because when you talk about online, you cannot just assume that everyone has equal access, all right? Like we would assume 2020, everyone has a handphone, everyone has a computer, internet-ready computer, internet-ready handphone, and things like that. But you'll be surprised, like when we did a survey with our students, there are students who do not own a smartphone, okay? And then survey coverage, you need to find out whether their Wi-Fi is strong, moderate, poor, you know, and then you need to deal with that when you are designing your classroom. And then motivation efficacy, you can do it, you know, you can test out a few lessons in the classroom, okay, and see how the students take it. So you need to do that before you actually plan your class, okay? So then you go, once you have already done that and you have already gotten positive feedback, okay, that it's okay to go online, then you plan. So you plan for the syllabus migration from physical, as just now Pak Peter said, if you have reading, then do it. Ask them to do at home, do it asynchronously, or use a flipped classroom, meaning all the reading are done at home, okay? In the class, it's just interactivity, okay? Between the students talking about the reading, for example, or talking about what they wrote, okay? So the syllabus migration, you need to pick and choose which one to go online, which one they can do it on their own, okay? Next, online learning and teaching materials. It's not enough for you to put your slide on your platform and say, hey, I've gone online, right? Online learning and teaching materials need to be interactive. So if you look at CALL, or what we call computer-assisted language learning, behavioristic CALL in the beginning, in the 1990s, was very non-interactive. It was just fill in the blanks and then that's it, okay? So now, CALL has evolved from behavioristic to communicative, now to interactive. Now we are interactive. The students need to interact with the online learning materials. Okay, so what do you want to use? Do you want simulation? Do you want gamification? What do you want to use? How are the students going to interact with it? Okay, so then of course the platform. Which platform is easy? Which platform is not heavy? Which platform can be used well? All right, okay. Then the next step, execute. the actual teaching and learning within the classroom. So what type of content you want to impart, what activities that you want to do to enhance the content, and then you must have assessment of learning. Okay, assessment of the learning is to check whether they have achieved the content or not. Okay, all right. Finally, after the class, you need to review. You need to review the lesson, you need to review the platform, you really need to review the sustainability of your class, of your lesson. If it's not good, chuck it out. If it's good, but you need improvement, then improve it. Okay, so these are the 4 steps that you need to think of when you want to start to go online. All right, next. So this is the survey, an example of a survey that we did at UKHM. Okay, I have suitable smartphones, so you can see, very surprising, only 98% have access. Okay, so what do we do with the other 2%? Then, do you have internet accessibility? So when you look at it, mostly do not have very good internet accessibility. No, good and excellent is only 40%. So what do we do with the other 60%? So these are the considerations that we have. All right, so what to use? I don't want to talk about this because I think when people started to ask teachers and instructors to migrate, all right, into the online learning, you have a lot of webinars talking about how to use Google Form, how to use Google Classroom, and I think all of you are actually exposed to that. Am I going too fast? No, okay. All right, so I'm just going to mention it. So some of it are audio recording and editing, photo editing, multimedia projects. So you have all of this, okay? All right. But here in UTHM, these are what we use. We use a lot of WhatsApp and Telegram because it's not heavy, all right? We can post videos and things like that there, all right? So, and then the next one is Google Classroom. Author is our own learning management system, all right? So most of us use that, okay? All right, if you don't have, then you can have like Google Classroom, you can have Edmodo, and so on and so forth. All right, so it's good to know the basics of how to do your classroom. But if you don't have the skills, you cannot do it as well, all right? So what do language instructors need in terms of skills? So these are the skills. This person said that these are the 9 skills that you need, all right? 9 fundamental digital skills for instructors, language instructors. Record and edit audio clips, create annotated interactive, and they have given the tools and things like that here. Okay, I will not delve into it because I think when I give you the PowerPoint, you can read it on your own, okay? But for me, I feel even if you have all these skills, but if you do not have the fundamental skill, which is flexibility, that means willing to learn, willing to change, to transform your classroom, then none of these skills will be useful. All right? Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Next. Oh, I've got a lot. Okay, my classroom, I use a lot of these things. All right. It's on my phone, it's on my iPad and all that. Okay, how to use it? So you depends on which skill you want to go for. All right. When we talk about communicative approach, you do not only teach writing on its own. It's usually speaking and writing, reading and writing, and so on and so forth. So you choose which skills to use, and then you explore it in your classroom using the 3 steps: plan, execute, and things like that. Okay, my time is almost, okay. What matters in classroom implementation? Okay, to sum up the generic part of it before I show you my task, okay, there are 3 things which I am very concerned with, because it depends on the policy of the government and things like that, which are 3 things. One is the most important for your implementation is your students, okay? Second is the environment you are in. So now is IR 4.0. And then third, Malaysia, for me, I think also for Indonesia and other countries, graduate employability is a worrying thing, all right? So how are we going to embed these 3 things into our classroom? So I'm going to show you how I have tried to do that, okay? All right, so for me, using an application in an online classroom can be interesting. It can be fun. but you don't want just the fun part. What's more important in online learning is the actual learning, is the actual educational experience. Are the people feeling it? You know, do they feel like they are learning, or they are just like a one-off thing and then that's it? Okay, so for me in my classroom, I take this framework as my background. Okay, this framework is from Garrison. Okay, it is called the Community of Inquiry Framework. It has been used in other subjects. So far, it has not been used in language. Okay, so I've started using it to design my online classroom. So this framework consists of 3 consigning circles, which are 3 presences: social, cognitive, and teaching presence. Okay, the main presence, if you look at it, at the bottom is the teaching presence. The teaching presence, like Pak Peter said just now, the teacher has to do all the work. All right. So if the teacher has already selected the climate, meaning the platform that they want to use, the application that they want you to use, and then selecting the proper content, then the other 2 consigning, the other 2 circles will be will go into play, or what do you call it? Will be developed. Okay, so if you have proper planning in terms of teaching presence doesn't mean like when your students are communicating online, you have to be present. No, it's the materials that you do, the worksheets that you give them, all right? You are setting the climate and giving the content, okay? So if you do it well, then their cognitive development will happen. And the students will interact, okay? Then they will have, when they interact, they will have social presence, you know, the usual communication, ice breaking, and so on. So you have the supporting discourse. So how am I going to reenact this in my online classroom? So one way for me, I feel the best way is to use in my classroom task-based learning. Why am I using task-based language teaching and learning? Is because we need deep learning. Okay, it's not enough for online classroom to just be about, like just now, it was mentioned that we do not want rote learning. We do not want fill in the blanks. We want the students to go for fluency rather than accuracy. So task-based language teaching and learning is concerned about fluency, all right? So in order to do that, then we can use the community of inquiry as our basis, all right? And task-based learning as the content or the task that the teacher uses, all right? So why am I using task-based? So task-based develops language skills and cognitive processes using meaningful real-world process of language use, okay? So that means the task is authentic enough for the students to actually communicate naturally using an authentic task, okay? And finally, task completion often requires learners to engage in authentic discussions and reflective thinking, as compared to the traditional approaches to teaching of specific linguistic items. As a result, language learning is more meaningful and achieved through means of communicating with others. Okay, so this is a premise for constructivism. Okay, so
excuse me.
I will go. Yes.
It's 30 minutes already. Maybe you can wrap up.
Oh, 30 minutes. Can I just, a little bit on my class?
Yes,
yeah. Okay. So this is my 3rd year class because I want to show you how I have done it in my classroom. Just a little bit. Okay. So this course is English for occupational purposes. This is the last class. So the skill that's being taught is meeting skills. So if you look at it, when we want to design our curriculum, our classroom, you need to have these 3 things: task, the scaffold, the worksheet, and the student feedback. So task, usually task is an information task. It's not opening. Can you see that? Can you see that? Yeah. Okay. So you have a look at it. All right. The task is basically a problem. So each student in the group, there are 4 students in a group. So you would have like the same background. Okay. Like for example, this one, they are working in the same company, but different branches. And each of them will have a different task. Okay, their task is based on a problem. All right, so student until student D. So that is the task. Okay, then what is the scaffold? All right, the scaffold is you give them questions to guide them into the task. All right, because when you just throw the students into the deep end, they will not be able to focus their discussion. You know, I've done it where I haven't given them the scaffold. So what they did was they spent about the whole day to finish the task because they were not focused. So with the task structure, with this scaffold, they are able to do that. Okay, when we talk about that, another scaffold is you need to handle it beforehand, before the actual class. So you need to have language expressions. You need to teach them how to conduct and participate in a meeting. So that one you can practice before you actually do this. Okay, and then lastly, the task completion. So what they need to do is, because they have, each of them will have different issues, they need to discuss, and then they need to rank the issue. So the issue needs to be ranked and then the solution to it. All right. Okay. So, and then after you finish the class, you need to have the students' feedback, actually to understand what is happening, you know, to understand whether, okay, let's not show that. Okay. Whether the students know what they are, you know, the feedback of the students in terms of whether they like the task or not. So these are some of the examples. Okay, for example, the task completion, this is what the students did, and so on and so forth. Okay, and then I will finish a little bit. Okay, from my classroom, we found that there's increased cognitive presence, authentic communication, meaningful social presence, appropriate embedded language exercise. And these are some of my students' feedback, like the one that I said just now, we survey after that. So these are the feedback. So generally, it's positive reactions to tasks. Okay, so finally, before I close, these are the things that's what's important for you to go online. I'm going like 200 kilometers per hour. Okay, access free, that you must have access and coverage, familiarity or user-friendly applications. Okay, educational concerns like graduate employability and things like that, interest in the task, meaningful tasks, like the task that I showed you, the students liked it and they felt that it's very authentic to their workplace, motivation and sustainability. So to end, my summary is, I would say that if you want to go online, if you want to go into the digital era, do not be too concerned about the application. It's not about the tools. Okay, it's not so much about, wow, I'm using a new tool this week. No, it should be about the learning, the actual environment and the educational experience that they get from your classes. Do they feel that they have learned something, you know, implicitly or explicitly, but the educational experience is more important than the actual. So with that, thank you. And I hope that you have learned, if not a lot, a little bit from my presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Fuzailin. Yeah, I think we have learned a lot. Well, that's the presentation. Very interesting, very enlightening. Well, yeah, I think we all learned a lot from the presentation, both from Pak Peter and also Ibu Zailin. I have lots of questions from the audience, and I think most of the questions can be directed to both our speakers. And I want to divide the questions into two groups. First, let's discuss the questions concerning teaching language in general. And after that, we are going to questions about online learning. So there are three general questions in teaching language in general. First, how to engage students. So Pak Peter used the term noisy, that students should be noisy, meaning that students should participate actively. But how do we do that so that students can be active? It's related to the fact that teaching language in Indonesia especially tend to focus on receptive skills, reading, listening. Therefore, students become passive users of the language. So that's the first question. The second question is, what's the best approach to teach students with low level of language fluency? So we can see that not every student has the same level of English language fluency, not only English, but also Indonesian. And that's from the student side. But what if the teachers who have low level of language proficiency? So yeah, those three questions for teaching language in general. So maybe Pak Peter and Bu Zaili can give advice. Please unmute yourself, Pak Peter.
Okay. You're talking about language teaching in general. Can we start with teaching in general, and that means on ground? Let me start with on ground first. You know, this has something to do with culture, I think. If I go to high school, elementary school in America, you know, the relationship between the teacher and the students is a little bit of a different. You know, it's very easy for the student to ask any question, you know, to be engaged in a conversation with the instructor. It's very easy. It's, you know, in Indonesia, it's a little different. So it's a cultural thing. So I think it's a big thing because of big homework, big task, because we have to change the culture first. That is, the instructor can show that he or she is being approachable. You know, there has to be a level of comfort. The comfort, the atmosphere of comfort in class, when they're comfortable, teachers is approachable, then the students are willing to talk. Okay? The problem that I saw when I observe a lot of classes in Indonesia is that the teacher want to show the power. I mean, the exerting the power in class is very important. It's part of the culture too, you know. And hey, you know, you're learning, I'm talking, you're listening. Listen. I think the teacher has to be trained, to be taught. No, it's the opposite. The teacher should listen. Let the student talk. So if you try to create a habit, okay, today my goal is to make the student talk and to make me talk less. Okay? Oke, anak-anak, sehari ini pokoknya saya mau bicara sedikit. Saya akan dengar kamu pokoknya. Okay? You know, just give them. And then, okay, this is another thing, another attitude of a lot of instructors. If the students make mistakes, you know, salah, orang uno, you know, that attitude. Yeah, I think the instructors should encourage students with compliments. Even if it's wrong, don't easily. I mean, the teacher want to show them, you know, he knows more than anyone. Especially when it comes to teaching English, for example, you know, some students may know a lot, you know, considering the proficiency of the instructors. The learners may know a lot, but they don't dare to say it, you know. Even sometimes when the instructor says wrong or saying something, you know, wrong, the student won't say anything, you know. In America, it's okay. When the instructor is wrong, the student will say, no, that's not it. You know, it should be this way. It is acceptable in America. You know, I'm criticized by my students all the time, and we have good relationship. And that's okay. It doesn't hurt my self-esteem or anything. In Indonesia, that is difficult. So one is culture. You have to change culture. Yes. Second, when you come to class, think about you want to listen what the student have to say.
Okay.
Okay. So that those two things. And remember, in language learning, if it is learner-centered, let the student talk. Sometimes, hey, ngomong aja. No. Make them talk. Pair them. Define the group. You can talk as much as you can. And then the teacher can go around trying to correct their grammar, give them help with the vocabulary. You know, let them talk.
Okay. Yeah.
This is about confidence too, you know. That's why we're not very confident in speaking English. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Pak Peter. So, Bu Zailin, probably you can share the practice in Malaysia. Maybe it's different culture from Indonesia and the United States.
It's similar. So you will have students who are, if you go to the Klang Valley, you know, you have more students who will be more interactive in class. But if you go to our parts, you will have very reluctant students, you know. So how are you going to engage them? Of course, I would say the task itself. If the task completion requires that everyone is they need to speak or they need to write something, then whether they like it or not, they would do it. They would have to do it. So the way you scaffold your classes, you know, I think people are scared to be engaged when they are not sure of how they will look like. You know, will I sound stupid when I speak in English? Okay, so the scaffold that you have, you know, in preparation before they actually speak or before they actually write, have to be done in such a way. And you need to know, if you have 40 students, you need to know, okay, this student is weak, that student is faster. So you would engage them differently, you know. And the beauty with online learning is that it's a free for all platform. You know, you can even interact with people without looking at their faces. Okay, like for example, for today, the presentation, not everyone has their faces online, you know. So it allows them to be, you know, face saving, you know. I think for the Asian culture, it is the face saving thing, you know, the face saving mode, which makes us reluctant to actually speak in a language that we are not sure of. All right. So for me, I feel the way you scaffold your classes, the way you actually interact in terms of your materials, the way that you ask your students to progress in the class is very important. Okay. It's just not enough to say speak. That's it. You know. Okay. So I think that's my intake.
Okay. So basically, the teachers should try to engage students more. Okay. That brings us to questions regarding online courses. Still talking about engagement. With in-person classes, the students are physically present, so it's relatively easier for the teachers to engage the students. But what about in online classes? Not everybody is turning on the video, for example, and they probably are not physically present in front of the screen. So what is the best? Well, is there any different approach to engage students in online classes?
For me?
Yes, please, for both of you.
For me, I think it does not matter. It doesn't matter whether they are there or not. As I said just now, if you scaffold and you have a proper task, the student may not even be there, but they are, you know that at the end, the product is there. Like Pak Peter said in his presentation just now, if you give a simple writing assignment, you just give a title and you say, write about this. They can just Google it on internet and they can cut and paste. You know, they can plagiarize other people. But if you have done it in such a way, a task like the one that I showed you just now, there's no way that they can actually take it from somewhere. So there's no way that they can do it individually. They need to actually interact with one another to be engaged in the task in order to come up with the task completion sheet. So for me, when you talk about engagement, the essence of it is the teaching presence. The teacher has to do all the work first.
Yeah.
So if you just leave it like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
okay.
So,
thank you. Pak Peter, yeah.
So I'm actually more hopeful in the online than on ground. You know, in my experience, I see some students actually because the good thing about online is they can prepare it. You know, you call it plagiarize, but it's okay. You know, they have a note and then they record it. You know, they do a lot that in class it's a lot of impromptu, and whereas online it is delayed and prepared in a way that actually help the students to be more confident, actually, you know, and they can rewind and do it again or redo it. And that opportunity actually provides a little bit more, I think. But again, it depends on how you design your class. As I said, it is very important to design the class, to ask them for production. And then again, also the way you correct, the way you give input. You can give input condescendingly, or you can give input, you know, with a lot of praise, you know, well, this is great, this is good, you know, that's just a little thing, you know, you can change that a little. It's your attitude. It's the instructor's attitude and the way you treat your students, okay? it can be
Okay,
really.
so
Go ahead.
yeah, thank you, Pak Peter. It seems that what Bu Zailin and Pak Peter just said also answered the questions about the best approach for online courses between synchronous, asynchronous, or hybrid. Someone also asks, probably hybrid will be the most appropriate method in the future after the pandemic.
Yeah, I now actually the classes, the majority of language classes at Arizona State University is now designed for hybrid, because we see the productiveness of the students on online. So we will have to meet on ground. There has to be a real personal touch and an interaction. But the online is very important in developing and building e-learning communities. And if you're serious and really engaging the student to create that in-learning community through WhatsApp, through Facebook, whatever, but they have to use the target language. Actually, it helps a lot on the online, so we need, I agree, actually, in the future, I think the future would be more hybrid.
Hybrid. Within the pandemic, is it synchronous or asynchronous that is better?
Well, if you talk about hybrid, it is a combination of asynchronous, and the synchronousness is done on ground. Part of that, real time is the on ground. So it would be asynchronous plus on ground.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we have been done now. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
That's the same as as I said this now, this pandemic, there is a blessing to it as well, because now we are actually looking back at our practice and thinking like, hey, it's not so bad. Before this we were like, how can you teach language online? But now, because we have been asked to do it, now we are learning, hey, not everything has to be face-to-face. There are parts where we can put it online. And even more, like for example, when I did task-based, okay, the students were texting each other or they were talking in a meeting, you can actually record it and you can actually look at the students' errors in there, and you can actually highlight that using an authentic situation, for example. You can actually tell the students, okay, your friend said this. How can they say it in a different way, for example, to get someone's agreement or someone's opinion, for example. So online gives us that platform, all right, whereby if it was face-to-face, you are actually, when they do that in a meeting with the teacher in their face, they would feel like, oh my God, But when it's online, the teacher is not present. So they do not feel that intimidated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a question about how the ideal meetings within a week to really achieve the desired outcome. Because,
okay.
Yeah.
So you're talking about learning outcome. Learning outcomes are, we design it weekly. Okay. So every week there, as I said, if you follow the ACFL guideline, there is can-do statements. Can-do statement be this week, I can do something. For Indonesian, it's easy actually. I started already. I start with, for example, first day of class. I can make the student talk about themselves. I start with nama saya dari, saya tinggal di. Diulang-ulang. Repeat it again. And then they talk about the family, bapak saya, ibu saya. Just that one day in 1 hour, I can make the student talk. Okay. So that is the goal of one day. And then the second day, we have 5 days a week, So in each day, there are tasks. And of course, there's repetition. Of course, there's homework they have to do at home. All are geared toward those learning outcomes. Every week has learning outcomes, specific one.
Yeah. For Bu Zailin, so it relates to assessment. So somebody asked about, you mentioned about online learning and teaching material in planned stage. So does it also include tool or instrument for assessment, and how to do assessment themselves for online classes?
it's very difficult to do assessments actually online. To tell you the truth, okay.
Yeah.
We started this semester with the online. If you do not have an actual university-based platform where it's, you know, the security is high and things like that. If you're using any generic application that is free for you, any freeware online, the terms of security is not high, but you just have to make do with it. So for us, we would use because our courses are not final exam courses. Ours are continuous assessments. So we would use things like Google Forms, we would use quizzes, we use Kahoot and things like that, okay? But maybe because this is, as I said just now, it is something that is we had to do it spontaneously, you know? But coming to the next semester, maybe we can think of using the university platform to actually make it more secure. Right? Because now, then you have to look at it if it's a writing assignment, for example, and you put it on Google Form, okay? The students will be submitting it via Google Form. They can upload their files, Word file, for example. So if you want to know whether they have plagiarized, you know, because the subject that we teach are ESP-based subjects. So you don't want them to plagiarize, you actually want them to write. So you can put it through Turnitin or any plagiarism checker that is available online. So you have to, if you want to go online fully or hybrid, you cannot just use one tool. You need to use a different tool for assessment, different tool for teaching, different tool for checking the assessment and things like that. All right? What works for you, you have to just trial and error.
Thank you. But Peter, would you like to add?
No, that's exactly what I was going to say actually, and I like that's why I like a real-time test, you know, face to face. What is it? Synchronous. Synchronous is the way for assessment, because I experience a lot of dishonesty and a lot of things that they can prepare, you know. So you know, I like.
Okay, now about informal language. Peter mentioned about informal language. So how much of informal language should we teach? That's one thing. And that will relate to, when we're learning language, we're learning the culture. So how much of the cultural things that we can include?
Yeah, well, culture isn't everything. The language itself is culture. The way we talk is culture. And I keep talking about, this is what a lot of Indonesian teachers actually disagree with me when I said, teach the language that people speak. Do not teach the language that grammarian want you to teach. So we have an Indonesian student, American learning Indonesian here, and he's at the advanced level going to Indonesia and meeting the president of the university, the rector. And you know what he said? Apakah Anda sudah pernah ke Amerika? Who says that? Nobody says that. Okay. So, Bapak sudah pernah ke Amerika? You know, so that's, we are teaching, it's not about formal or informal. You're talking about the language that is actually used, you know.
Right, that's a means of communication.
Right. And then they also say, jangan makan itu. They see somebody who's going to eat something. You say, jangan makan itu. No, we don't say that. You say, jangan dimakan. Jangan diambil. You know, you don't. So you teach the language that Indonesian use, formal or informal. Indonesian use both formal and informal, and I would teach both too, you know. So if they're engaged, for example, in WhatsApp and they have Indonesian friends, there are abbreviation and they learn that too. Okay, but first, of course, the basic one. Okay, the basic grammar is there too. But again, also as they go to advanced, they have to know that there are varieties of, you know, languages in Indonesia, formal as well as informal. To teach the language used by the people, not the grammar.
Right, not textbook language. Yes, Zailin, would you like to add?
Well, I'm a very informal person.
Okay.
My if you ask people at my center when I give speeches, it doesn't sound like I don't like giving speeches because I'm not a very formal person. So with my students as well. In fact, with any of the students, I think we should not be laying down rules like you have to speak formally in class. You know, we are talking about communication. Communication comes, you know, in authentic situations. Communication come in like for us in Malaysia, code switching is something that is like part and parcel of a Malaysian. We would go like, yeah, even if you go into the village areas, you know, people would say, okay, awak boleh go stand kereta, your car, please pakai shoes, you know, and things like that. So by saying that you have to have like a formal, yeah, you teach the formal parts and then you make the students practice. But what's wrong with actually showing what is the informal part, you know, so that also by being informal, you are actually engaging your students to actually participate with you, because they feel, okay, my lecturer is not using all bombastic words. Okay, she also speaks like us. So for me, there's no such thing as having a line between formal and informal in your classroom.
Right. Okay, so there's a question about the difference between teaching English in Malay and Indonesia. I think we touched on that a bit about the culture, and it's more or less the same, right? Yeah, because of the different culture. The Indonesian and Malaysia, more of the same culture from the United States.
If you look at Malaysia and Indonesia, there is a significant difference in the number of people proficiency in English. Indonesia is way less, and I see less confident in communicating in English among Indonesians, you know, even among the Indonesian English instructors themselves. So I think that has to be, I think there's a lot of homework more for Indonesia than for Malaysia on that.
Like, for example, in Malaysia now, we are going into what we call CIFA. You know, when America has Act FAL, what Pak Peter said just now, for us, all our English and all our languages are aligned to what we call the Common European Framework of Reference now.
Yes.
So it's already in the Malaysian education blueprint. So all English teachers from kindergarten up to tertiary level, we must achieve a certain proficiency, which is CFR aligned. So whether we like it or not, the teachers have to also, the teachers and instructors have to achieve a certain proficiency, because we see a deterioration in the English language of Malaysians in general. So that is what the government is doing in terms of that. So,
well, yeah. Thank you, Pak Peter and Buzel. It's been very interesting discussion. Before I forget, the main question that the participants asked is that whether both of you would like to share the material that you're giving today, the slides.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. I will give the slides.
Good. So yeah.
Actually, I've already given. I've already given the slides to the organizers actually last time.
Right, because based on my experience, not everybody wants to share their PowerPoint slides. So thank you very much, Peter and Buzel, that you're willing to share. So I hope we have covered all of the questions. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time left. So I would like to end the discussion by giving a chance for Pak Peter and Rosalyn to give final remark of the whole discussion that we have today. Yes, please. Rosalyn first, maybe, or Pak Peter first?
Rosalyn.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much for listening to my rambles. Okay. I've become interested in computer-assisted learning for the longest time, okay? But now, as I said just now, it's a blessing. This COVID is a blessing to see so many people are now more invested into it. But the only thing I think you should take home with you from whatever that we have discussed here, it's not so much about the application. It's not so much about the tools. Think more about the tasks, the assessment, the teaching and learning materials, the actual educational experience in your classroom to teach the language, all right? So if you do that well, if you have the strong teaching presence, inshallah, everything will fall into place. So with that, I would like to thank Dr. Nur Hayati, Dr. Deli, to you, the chairperson and the organizing committee, Pak Peter as well, all right? So I hope that, as I said just now, if you have not learned a little bit, a lot, then you learn a little bit. So on my slides, I have my email. If anyone would like to ask further questions, and feel free to do so. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Bu Zalin. Pak Peter, final remark.
Yes, my email is peter.suwarno@asu.edu. If you want to add me in the Facebook, I still have a lot of space for friends. You want to ask questions. I love interacting with a lot of instructors of languages, especially English. Yeah, my concern is this about Indonesia. Well, not quite learning Indonesian, but about learning English. Really, the ability, the proficiency of our younger generation has to be lifted. It has to be worked on, really. And for that, we really have to be serious in terms of building our human resources with English proficiency. And the task is really big. And for the English instructors, really, please don't think about our self-esteem, our image, our being jaim. Really focus on the student. They are the future, Let them talk. Encourage them to build learning community. You must have. If you're an instructor now, I'm sure you're all English or Indonesian instructors somewhere. One thing that you have to do from this is build an e-learning community. There is a community where they engage in using only the target language. That is online task that is, I think, important and urgent now. And I would like to thank all the committee, Dr. Nur Hayati, Dr. Deli, Mbak Eta, Mbak Tias, Pak Catur, and everybody else I cannot mention. Again, thank you very much. Jangan kapok undang kami. Kami selalu berbahagia dan berterima kasih sekali bisa keep in touch. Oke? Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Well, thank you, Pak Peter. Thank you, Bu Zalin, for this very interesting, and it's enlightening as well. I would like to remind the audience that if you have questions that we haven't covered in our discussion, Pak Peter and Bu Zalin already offer their emails that you can ask directly to them. Send Bu Zalin, Pak Peter emails to ask questions that we have not covered here in the discussion. And also if you, maybe after this seminar, then you suddenly have other questions to ask, I think Pak Peter and Bu Zalin will be happy to answer, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. It's part of sharing knowledge. I think this is the end of our online seminar today. I would like to thank again Pak Peter, Bu Zalin as the guest speakers who have shared so much. So Bu Zalin said,
thank you to you too.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. So yeah, it's my pleasure as well to be the moderator in this interesting discussion. Thank you. I would like to thank the speakers and also the committee for inviting me to be the moderator. Before we close after we close this conference, if this is an in-person seminar, we usually have the photo session together. So we will stand together in front of the banner or the backdrop or whatever. Since this is an online, we are talking about online learning. This is also part of online learning. Since we cannot be together, even if we are together, we need to physically distance ourselves. So the committee asked me to ask all of you, the audience, and also Pak Peter and Bu Zalin, to turn on your video so that we have all of your faces on screen and we can take picture that way. Please. Committee? I'm not the host, so I don't know how they will take the picture. Are we done taking? I don't know. Are we done taking the picture? The host? Oh, still taking picture. Okay. That's from the committee. That's from Pak Catur. Okay, let me know if you're done. Okay, done. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This is the end of our online seminar today. It's been a pleasure to be here in this pandemic, to learn together and to really practice what is being presented here, the online teaching, the online learning. So thank you very much. There will be, if you missed the first part of this online seminar where there's a video presentation from the Master Program of Linguistics, you can stay a little longer to watch that. But thank you very much again for attending this seminar. Hope to see you again in the online seminar in the near future. Thank you. Goodbye. Take care.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Take care.